Morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Benjamin Baker, and I have the honor of working as our governor's public safety advisor here in the governor's office. Welcome to our cabinet room. Welcome New Mexicans watching this on live stream. We have a very exciting and very important announcement related to the criminal work being undertaken by New Mexico Organized Crime Commission. This joint operation was conducted by over 16 agencies, state, local, and federal. We have brought to you some of the key stakeholders, but certainly not inclusive of everyone, as this was a massive undertaking to update the community and the media on the progress on a very important matters happening at our southern border related to human trafficking. So we're going to open today with a video. It's very short. It's about 90 seconds to a minute or to 2 minutes. I want to play it. We're going to cue that video so you can play it. Then I'm going to introduce the governor for some opening remarks, and then we'll have a more detailed presentation by the chair, Mr. Bregman. If we could have the video, please, sir. The video will be made available to the media, so no need to have to worry about capturing those stats or any of those other things. We will make sure that you get a link so that you can watch it in its totality. And then, of course, rehashing of those stats will occur during the entirety of this briefing. So without any further delay, I'm going to introduce our governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, to deliver some remarks. Madam.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Baker. Good morning, everyone. Tough topic, but quite frankly, I really do want to highlight the incredible work when we all work together, and we have a very common purpose. Certainly the goal is to disrupt criminal activity. When we do that and hold people accountable, we are saving lives and making every single New Mexican, and quite frankly, crime moves, we're making every American safer, which is the job of everyone here. Two, I'll go over the stats, but I really want to thank Chair and DA Bregman of the Organized Crime Commission. We were looking for every tool. We've asked Mr. Bregman, even before he was the district attorney for Bernalillo County, to help us think through, I think as early as 2019, a number of efforts that have resulted in money for additional warrants, so a fugitive warrant initiative. We'd like the legislature, I think, to give us even more money for that. That works, so that we can take bad actors when we know where they are and make sure that they are arrested and held accountable. It led to the $130 million for retention and recruitment, which has resulted in about 500 additional law enforcement personnel. I think we ought to do more of that. And any number of groups, including the Business Public Safety Advisory Council. The whole point here is raising awareness, get jurisdictions to work together like they did in this operation, and use the tools that we either already have, like the Organized Crime Commission, or create new tools to really combat crime and increase public safety around the state. And that takes every partner here. And I want to congratulate you on this operation, and I know that you didn't do that alone, and I really want to highlight both our federal partners, so thank you very much, both the Homeland Security investigators and Border Patrol. I know there were more folks involved, but they're out there on the front lines every single day, and without them, our ability to do these operations are minimized. And lastly, the state police have benefited from that increasing personnel and recruitment and retention efforts. and by return to work, which took us, frankly, far too long to get past. But they have finite resources, and I just want to highlight here. The state police have surged resources to Espanola, Santa Fe, have sustained those surges in Albuquerque, including now areas where we know that unhoused individuals are victimized and we've got drug trafficking occurring. They've sustained that, Santa Fe, Doña Ana County, Luna County, and many other places. And I really want to highlight that that is not easy work, because when we move, crime comes in, right? It requires stability of law enforcement personnel. And I say that not to tell New Mexicans we aren't going to keep that pressure up. We are. And we're going to keep having these results. But it is tough. And so we're going to have to continue to provide tools, like, for example, and thank you to everyone here for your work and the secretary's work and the chief's work at making this possible, but we're going to need an enhanced human trafficking statute in the state of New Mexico, and I have not yet successfully gotten that particular effort over the finish line at the legislature, and expect us to do that again. And I hope the work of all the partners, including the sheriffs, everyone, even if you're not part of a specific operation, we can't move personnel if the sheriff's not picking up, right, those efforts in Bernalillo County. It doesn't work. So, and lastly, and I want to do the stats again, we need all jurisdictions to work together, and that's not happening in the state of New Mexico in every area. Now, that sounds like I'm complaining. That's not the point here. It just shows what kind of results we can have. And we all need to erode some of those barriers so that we can have these kinds of results. If we don't stop it, we don't disrupt it, we continue to be victimized. And this is a very sophisticated, hundreds of billions of dollars in operations. You know, while policing hasn't grown around the country, and it's now growing in New Mexico, organized crime has been a very successful operation and business. And we need the tools to keep up, to make sure that we disrupt it and make New Mexicans safe. So I just really want to highlight in 12 days what's occurred. 91 people rescued by the state police alone. That's not all the other jurisdictions, right? There are more. 33 stash houses. They did the investigative surveillance work using the tools of the Organized Crime Commission. 735 traffic stops. This is critical because crime moves. We learn a lot in doing patrolling and traffic stops, and this is an area where every jurisdiction in the state of New Mexico, if we can help you engage in more of this, this will help us make sure that we're disrupting organized crime and holding, frankly, criminal actors and criminals accountable. 9 people were found in the desert, including 1 female in a life or death situation where she was taken to a hospital and is currently recovering. Border Patrol and New Mexico State Police were involved in that effort. I said last, but before I go back to Ben Baker, while I'm sure we'll get questions about many more details about these operations, a lot of these investigations are ongoing. And while you know that we've had multiple arrests, some felonies, some misdemeanors, I think with the ongoing independent and collective investigatory work, we should all expect more to come, but we don't interfere with those investigations. And in that, these are very complicated, very sensitive matters. That means that families can be at risk. Individuals living in these localities can be at risk. Members of law enforcement are always at risk. And this is where we have to be very clear and purposeful about the information that is out in the public, because we want to make sure that we complete our jobs and our tasks and we protect everyone in the process of those investigations. I probably stole a little of the state police, Border Patrol, and our federal agents and the DA's thunder, but that bears repeating over and over again. So again, this tool works. Thank you very much, Mr. District Attorney. Thank you to the state police who find ways to operationalize over and over and over again. Thank you to our federal partners who don't have sufficient resources either. Not lost on us, and have a large territory that they are responsible for. And thank you to the other law enforcement jurisdictions who have our backs when we have to move our personnel in one way or the other. So congratulations to everyone. Expect more of this, and I'm grateful for your leadership and the fact that you put your lives on the line for these 91 individuals and for New Mexicans and Americans every single day. And with that, Ben Baker, back to you.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate that. I'm remiss not to mention that the video that was played at the beginning was produced by folks on the ground during the operation, obviously, at the Department of Public Safety and the New Mexico State Police. They have some talented individuals over there, and so I wanted to make sure properly credit them for capturing and be able to kind of viscerally appreciate what it feels like for these first responders to carry somebody from the desert who was on the brink of death, for example. I think that's important to put that characterization. At this time, it's my honor to turn it over for some remarks and a brief presentation that will be carried on the large screen behind over there, the Organized Crime Commission Chairman and 2nd Judicial District Attorney Sam Bregman. Mr. Bregman.
Ben, thank you, and Governor, thank you. It is an honor to serve on the Organized Crime Commission with some amazing members. But I want to thank you particularly because you are relentless when it comes to the crime issues in this state. I know how much you care about this state, and you continue
to... Does I call you on the weekends and yell at you?
That too. But I do know that you are an inspiration to me because I know how important this work is, and so I want to thank you. And
thank you.
You being relentless is really, really important because it makes us get up every day and realize and remember what we're doing here. I want you all to know this was an operation that the Organized Crime Commission led with state and federal law enforcement partners. And right from the outset, I want to make this as clear as possible. Human trafficking is modern day slavery. What the cartels and criminal organizations are doing with human beings in their trafficking is absolutely unacceptable at every single level. And this state, like every other state in the country, quite frankly, deals with this issue. And we, just as I've mentioned how the governor's going to be relentless on the issue of crime, we, the Organized Crime Commission, the law enforcement partners sitting up here, and everybody within the state, we are going to be relentless when it comes to fighting back. And I think this is dubbed the Operation Disruption. And I want to make it very clear that our goal is to disrupt the cartels and let them know that New Mexico is not open for business, that we're coming right back at you every chance we get. Now, let me give you a few details about this operation. This operation took place from August 17th to August 29th of this year. The primary objective, and I want to make sure it's clear, the primary objective was to save migrants' lives. We know that too many migrants, too many people being trafficked and smuggled on our southern border are dying in the desert, and it's unacceptable. And so that was the number one objective. The number two objective was to disrupt the cartels at every corner that we possibly could, to disrupt the criminal organizations that are willing to prey on these individuals, on these human beings. This operation, and I think Border Patrol will get in a little bit more in depth on this, resulted in a significant drop in migrant deaths. The 2 weeks that this operation was in place resulted in a significant drop in migrant deaths. Additionally, Border Patrol reported that the number of persons fleeing them was reduced by half. And that is because, and let me take this moment to just say this, because of the unbelievable work that all law enforcement does. The state police led this operation together with Border Patrol, and the folks on the ground, the cops, they need to be recognized for the work they do because they do amazing work every single day, of course, and certainly in this operation as well. New Mexico State Police's, their actual presence and the amount of presence that was down in the border during this 12 days, that in itself led to a disruption of the cartels and the human trafficking. And again, Border Patrol will tell you this. The governor just spoke about collaboration amongst the various agencies. Up on the board, you could see all of the various agencies, including Albuquerque Police Department, U.S. Bureau of Land Management, all the way down. District attorney's offices from across the state. Everybody was in coordination and working well, and this is an example, I think, of not only the results, but an example of how law enforcement is supposed to work together. And I think every law enforcement officer here will tell you this is the way it's supposed to work. I want to talk about a few of the highlights. The governor touched on a few of them. But right off the bat, you talk about saving human lives. New Mexico State Police found a group of 9 migrants, as the governor mentioned, in the desert. One female was in critical condition with an internal temperature of 105 degrees. New Mexico State Police and Border Patrol were able to treat her and save her. And there is a picture of that migrant in an ice bath to cool down her core temperature. And I'm happy to say that that human being is alive today because of the work of the New Mexico State Police and Border Patrol. And I'm very grateful. That's a big deal. It's a real big deal, and that's not the only life we saved out there, but that's the example of it. As part of this operation, the New Mexico State Police arrested one of the top 5 human traffickers in the Las Cruces area. That's a big deal. And it sends a very clear message to the cartels and others that we're not putting up with it anymore. We're going after you. I would be remiss not to mention that through the governor's leadership, we have been working with the state of Chihuahua, the state south of our border, with their DPS, their Department of Public Safety. And that collaboration is key in these kind of operations on the border. The Organized Crime Commission literally had a special agent embedded in the intelligence center in Juarez. In fact, the OCC flew in a helicopter owned by the Chihuahua State Police down there, flew the border, and part of that video where you see some migrants running through the desert literally is video that our OCC agent took while in that helicopter on the other side of the border. So that OCC agent was able to give real-time intelligence to this side of the border. And that kind of collaboration and that kind of cooperation is critical in these kind of operations. And I'm very grateful to our colleagues on the southern side of our border. The governor mentioned the number of stash houses that were disrupted. And stash houses are all too common in the state of New Mexico because of our locale, because of the interstates traveling east and west and north and south. Stash houses are a real problem, and that is just the continuation of human trafficking. And the disruption of 30-some stash houses is a big thing. And in fact, during that investigation, these kind of operations lead to all kinds of other things. For example, throughout the course of their investigations for stash houses, the New Mexico State Police were able to assist the United States Marshals with the apprehension of a known violent felon who had shot his girlfriend the night before and was fleeing from law enforcement. The suspect was apprehended by New Mexico State Police. There is a lot more that I could discuss with you as far as highlights, but those are some of them. I do want to echo also what our governor told you. Many long-term investigations have been started because of this operation. And working with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the various prosecutors around the state, I think you're going to see a continued cooperation and a continued success stories that will be long past today, that will result hopefully in the conviction of people who traffic human beings. Now, I think it's critically important that I also mention that our human trafficking laws, we've learned through this operation, our human trafficking laws need to be changed in the state of New Mexico. Right now, it has required so much of the victim's testimony, and these folks, you could see the result of what happens to some of them. We shouldn't have to be able to prove a case against a human trafficker because of whether or not a victim participates or not in the prosecution of that. Law enforcement's observations, other witnesses' observations, should be allowed to be used in the prosecution. We need to broaden our human trafficking statutes here in the state of New Mexico, and I'm certainly very supportive of it. And I'm looking forward for that discussion in the legislature, because we're going to be able to have stories from law enforcement officers out of this operation that will be able to describe why they couldn't arrest a particular person or why they were able to based on our state statutes. And that needs to be fixed. It does, because human traffickers need to be held accountable at every level. Let me just say one last thing, and then I'll turn it over to others. This isn't the end of it.
That's right.
This is just the beginning. And I want the people of New Mexico to know that the Organized Crime Commission, and particularly this governor, is going to continue to be relentless when it comes to human trafficking and criminal organizations operating on our border, whether or not it's human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking. This is the first major operation. But sustainability is going to be key in making sure that we have all the necessary tools all the time. And that requires resources. Of course, it requires money. It requires good legislation. It requires, and thank God again for them, all these cops that are out there every single day doing one amazing job. And so with that, Governor, thank you for allowing us to tell the state and the people about this operation, which we consider a very big success.
Agreed, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. District Attorney. At this time, I'll turn it over to New Mexico State Police Chief Troy Weisler, who will offer some remarks related to the New Mexico State Police function within this operation. Chief?
Thank you, Ben. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Governor. So today, this morning, I'm proud to discuss this latest operation that State Police has conducted to help ensure public safety. I'm especially proud that we were able to do it in conjunction with our partners at the Organized Crime Commission, as well as our federal and local partners, especially Border Patrol. I want to emphasize, once again, I know it's been emphasized, but I can't reiterate enough, especially given the area that this occurred in, given the transnational nature of the crime, how important partnerships are, particularly in this type of operation. Now, as you've heard, Operation Disruption was more than just an enforcement action. It was a humanitarian mission aimed at disrupting human trafficking organizations that prey on the vulnerable. And it specifically focused on the border areas of Doña Ana and Luna County, and even more particular, the majority of the focus, or the biggest focus, was on the Sunland Park and Santa Teresa areas, where we have had a high number of migrant deaths. Now, these criminal groups trafficking in human cargo, as you've heard, they don't care about the well-being of those people that they traffic, and they regularly leave them for dead. In fact, I think in some cases, unfortunately, it benefits the traffickers to have somebody die or have somebody have heat exhaustion. They know that that takes public safety resources, that diverts those resources for that would be doing enforcement, and they use that to their advantage. The mission of the New Mexico State Police in this operation was clear. We were there to serve as a deterrent, which I think that we have shown we were able to do, and we will continue to do in the future. And most importantly, to protect life, which we had a very clear example where that happened. And I think the overall numbers show that just the deterrent factor alone, we saw a drastic drop in the number of deaths during the time of this operation. Now, over the course of this operation, State Police Crime Suppression Bureau and Uniform Bureau, we deployed additional resources to the areas mentioned above. Together with our partners, we focused on identifying and locating the stash houses where trafficked individuals were held. Now, these efforts are essential in our broader mission of dismantling criminal networks and, most importantly, to rescue and protect the individuals involved. Now, this operation was not just about enforcement, it was about compassion and protection. And while we worked to disrupt the criminal activities, our priority remained the safety and well-being of the victims. All of our activities were part of a coordinated strategy designed to monitor high-risk areas, gather actionable intelligence, and ensure our efforts were not a burden to the communities we have sworn to protect. It was through this balance of enforcement and discretion that we aim to make a lasting impact. Now, I won't reiterate all the stats. Like I say, y'all seen those, so you've heard about them. You're gonna have a video. But I'm gonna tell you that this is just the tip of the iceberg. You heard a little bit from DA Bregman about when we deal with organized criminal groups like this, you never know what you're gonna encounter. We arrested a violent felon, went in a shooting in a totally different part of the state while sitting on stash houses. These same individuals are regularly involved in drug trafficking and all manner of crime on the border, bringing fentanyl, all that in addition to their trafficking of humans. So in closing, I just want to reiterate that the New Mexico State Police, in partnership with our state and our federal allies, is fully committed to dismantling the criminal networks that threaten the safety of our communities. Operation Disruption was just one example of how we are working tirelessly to protect life and ensure our communities remain safe and secure. We will continue to stand vigilant, act decisively, and work collaboratively to fulfill this mission, whether at the border or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Excellent, well said, and thank you for your work. New Mexico State Police is well represented. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Juan Bernal of the United States Border Patrol, who we are honored to have representatives from our federal law enforcement function here. Chief Bernal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, law enforcement partners, and good morning, members of the press. I am honored to be here with each and every one of you today. I am the Interim Deputy Chief. My name is Juan Bernal. I am here on behalf of the El Paso sector. We are proud to stand here alongside our members of the New Mexico Organized Crime Commission, our local, federal, and state law enforcement partners to share the successes of Operation Disruption. I lost my spot here. Sorry. The resulting crime interception in our region demonstrates the strength and potential of our alliances. Our unity sends a clear message to the transnational criminal organizations. We will not stand by and allow you to exploit our borders, to exploit the migrants crossing the border and our communities. We will not allow that. Operation Disruption has yielded incredible results. In the New Mexico area alone, we have seen an 89% decrease in deaths. We have seen a 355% increase in rescues, and we have seen a 28% increase in encounters and a 47% decrease in gotaways. Again, our increased posture in our region has resulted in higher consequences for the criminals, fewer deaths, more rescues, and reduced attempts for people to illegally migrate through this region. Put simply, increased border security for America. As of August of this fiscal year, the El Paso sector unfortunately led the nation in migrant deaths. In an effort to prevent this trend from continuing, we are working with our partners. We are intercepting smugglers in their tracks, and we are working with federal and state prosecutors to apply appropriate consequences for these criminal activities. Many of the previously mentioned fatalities were caused by smugglers recklessly ignoring our laws. For U.S. Border Patrol and our partners, the 89% decrease in deaths, the 355% increase in rescues, means that we are doing our jobs to combat the transnational criminal organizations. This operation is a true reflection of border operation enhancements with our law enforcement partners strategically deploying technology and working the areas that we are targeting. We are improving our emergency response capabilities as a team. Border Patrol agents are on the front lines of America and are dedicated to fortifying our security infrastructure alongside our partners. Effective border security relies on strong communities. Thank you to everyone who is here today standing alongside us in this crucial border security mission. Together we protect lives, we uphold justice, and we maintain order. Working together against the TCOs means that the law enforcement community wins. It means that the community in general wins. It means that New Mexico wins. And it means that America wins. And I think we all agree that we want to win. And saving lives is a common ground and a common goal that we can all get behind at any time. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Governor. Again, count on our continued participation and being a member of this team.
Thank you, Chief, and you can expect the very same from every jurisdiction in New Mexico, even the ones that don't work for me, because they have the same effort and the same dedication. So we are all on the same team.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very well said, Chief. Thank you very much for your leadership, your participation, and your comments here today. They're very meaningful. That increase in encounters decrease in deaths and increase in saves. Speaks for itself. It's incredible. Thank you. Madam, do you have anything in summary before we go to Q&A?
No, yes and no. You can see that it takes an extraordinary amount of personnel effort to do any of this work. That we have to have partners at the southern border to make this work. That we are all using as many of our resources and our collective expertise to make a difference. And this is one of, I believe, many successful operations, and they are occurring all the time, and I really appreciate that message, that we are going to hold bad actors accountable. We're going to find you. We're going to arrest you. We're going to convict you. And we're going to save people's lives while we do that. Both those things are in fact our jobs, and we're going to keep doing them. And this area of public safety will continue to be a top priority for my administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Governor. Mr. Coleman will handle our Q&A, which we'll move to now. Mr. Coleman, if you want to select the questions.
Press for being here for some important announcements. Any questions?
Chuck Redmond. You mentioned that this was the first major operation. This is a problem that's been happening for years, so why hasn't this been done sooner?
So that's a good question in the sense that the governor recognized the organized crime threat in the state and reinstituted or reestablished this commission. As you may remember, this commission, the Organized Crime Commission, was originally enacted back in the 70s, but it went dormant for a long time. This governor, I believe, and I'm speaking for maybe, but I think we all recognize the threat of these criminal organizations. And these things aren't something that's planned out. As you can imagine, the resources were tremendous. So we spent several months planning this out. Listen, it takes to have this kind of surge from the state police and others, it does take some resources and some time to get it done, to make sure it's coordinated and to make sure it's effective. And we've learned things from this operation that I think we're going to be able to incorporate into the future that's going to make a big difference. And I can tell you, this is a very, very important issue because it's not just the border. There was a violent shooting yesterday afternoon in Albuquerque at a stash house where there were 15 migrants there. Right. This is ongoing every single day. And when we see it and we come back and we combat it like the way we did this last 2 weeks, that makes a difference, and we're going to keep combating it every single day. So, yes, it's taken some time to get reestablished and do the kind of things that we need to do, but I think we're doing nothing but stepping on the gas.
Yeah. Daniel, if I can, if we just had really effective cooperation with no actual result, that is a huge step in the right direction, because when resources across the country and certainly in New Mexico got so thin, the only thing you feel like you can do is to do the very basics in one community. You can't extend beyond that. We made a commitment, frankly, in 2019 that we were to do everything we can. Folks might remember we talked about investments in the fusion centers. We invested in a new crime lab, everything that it takes to marshal these kinds of resources and operations and sustain them. And two, frankly, everyone, and I really want to give credit where it's due, I'm asking all of the time, everyone, policymakers, law enforcement personnel, everyday citizens, tell us what's going on. What do you know? What is happening? What tools do we need? What bills? We're looking across the country. I see what Texas is doing. I see what California is doing. I see what Oklahoma is doing. We embed the successful things right here. It was D.A. Bregman who said, why don't we reconstitute this thing? And in just over a year, this is a major operation. And it's not the only operation. Sometimes, no offense to the media, we need you to get the word out. Less is more. I don't get weekly updates about these operations, and I should not. What we get is when we have a completion and a plan for the next one, completion, working on all these investigations, continue to expand the breadth of our abilities. We'll come to you with the next set. of outcomes. But we've been doing it a ton. I really do think, Daniel, it's just that, we did this thing in America where we don't need as much of the law enforcement, we need more prevention at all, in all facets. And then we swing the other side, we need a lot more law enforcement, community policing in these operations, and no prevention. You have to do all of this work all of the time, and my message to New Mexico policymakers, even if and we have, you can see stats, there's lower crime stats in a variety of areas, not doing so well in some violent crime, particularly in the last couple of months in Albuquerque. It is going to be cyclical. You squeeze it, it bulges, you squeeze it, it bulges. You can never let your foot off the gas, ever. And that's the lesson I hope the takeaway is in New Mexico. We need these partners forever. Don't ever take your foot off the gas. This is where we end up. Stuff starts to fall apart. This infrastructure is fragile. And I'll tell you what's not fragile, organized crime. They are always recruiting and investing, building. That means we have to be better at it than they are. And I expect that New Mexico and our partners, particularly along the border and in the El Paso sector and in every corridor, are clear about we're going to need all those resources. And I'm proud of the men and women who got this together today. But that's sort of my diatribe. We focus on one thing at a time, in absence of all the rest, and you cannot. I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep our foot on the gas all the way through.
Governor, you mentioned kind of looking what other states are doing. Obviously, when it comes to Texas, they've done things like the National Guard at the border and things like that. I know you kind of refrained from doing any actions like that. I was curious how you kind of sustain this presence and these results that you've talked about today, given the demands of staffing and law enforcement.
Well, we're going to have to keep getting more police, and it's a great place for me to advertise. And the Texas Rangers were great, but New Mexico's got a better retirement system. It's got a better survivor support investment, that we do retention bonuses and recruitment and marketing. We want everyone. You retire from Border Patrol, look no further than New Mexico to be your next jurisdiction in any context. So we're going to keep doing that. We do have the Guard involved in border security efforts where they can. They're part of a drug interdiction team. Their information involvement is critical. And without picking on one governor or another, I have a different strategy. The National Guard can arrest. And their presence in a community doesn't have a chilling effect in the same way. That's not to say that Guard expertise and members aren't a valuable tool. As we know in Texas, a lot of those efforts have now been suspended by federal courts, and there's a huge fight, I would say, between what the Homeland Security at the Fed should do and not do. I don't want to fight. I want the expertise by the men and women who know what they're doing at the border to direct the personnel and support us in meaningful activities. And I think I might have a different political opinion about the value of human life by a lot of folks in elected positions. That is not a dig at Governor Abbott. Just look no further at Congress. We have a bipartisan border deal. Let's get that deal done. We need more Border Patrol agents. They cannot do this work without additional resources. It's nearly impossible. We're asking them to secure thousands of miles, and organized crime, they will find a way to come over here no matter what you do, unless we have the resources to combat that effort and we have a good relationship with other countries, including Mexico at the border. It has to be all of it. So I have the Guard involved. They have a specific role. And the last thing about the Guard, that's not to say that the state police haven't been in Mora County, San Miguel County, Cibola County, Grant County, Lincoln County, Bernalillo County, Valencia County. Where haven't you been for flooding and fires? Nowhere in the whole state. And the same with the Guard. The difference is we move the state police out and the Guard stays with all that debris cleanup. So I think New Mexico is doing exactly right by where we use our personnel. I don't want New Mexicans, so I really appreciate your question, to think that we won't use every tool. I mean, I think that narrative, and maybe that's our fault that we haven't done as effective a job. Every resource that we can deploy at the border, we will deploy, including we have sort of cross-commissioned DA personnel in the southern part of the state to be Homeland Security investigators. So we're leveraging everywhere we can. But I'm trying to right-size how this works, and as you heard, having state police where I can arrest you, interrupt you, hold you accountable is a different kind of chilling effect than Guard personnel without minimizing the value of men and women in the National Guard. But did I miss anything in that effort? It's all of us, all at once, highlighting the roles that are most effective.
Thanks, Governor. We've got a couple more questions. Go to Luis at Telemundo.
Hello, Luis with Telemundo. I have a question. If you are able to just clarify exactly, or if you can give the information of exactly where you guys focus this operation. And I know it's mostly in the south, but is there any idea if there's anything in the north of New Mexico as well, or any other parts of New Mexico? And see if we can also get some Spanish statements from the Border Patrol, either now or later.
So I'll just briefly touch on the operational part. So the main focus of this operation was Doña Ana and Luna County, specifically Sunland Park, Santa Teresa area. Now, obviously, on the stash house component, stash houses are all over, generally some right at the border, some further from the border. And so those operations will take us, we will follow those investigations wherever we need to. As mentioned by the DA just a minute ago, though, we know that those operations lead to Albuquerque, they lead all over the state, and to some degree they lead all over the country. That's why we have our federal partners, and so we'll pursue those investigations wherever we need to.
And I'll add something that was happening with the Border Patrol, and it's kind of to echo what the governor stated earlier, is because we're limited on resources, we were having to spread out those resources to cover thousands and thousands of miles that we're responsible for. With all of our partners, the counties, the local police, tribal, state, everybody, other federal agencies helping us out, we were able to forward deploy and work closer to the border. And what that resulted in is we're interdicting people before they get into dangerous situations. They don't realize that they're being misled by the smugglers and by the transnational criminal organizations. And if we can interdict them within short distance of the border, before they find themselves with heat-related illnesses and dehydration, et cetera, that is one of the key reasons why we're saving lives as a result of this operation. And we couldn't do it without our partnerships. So.
And I would love to be able to address this in Espanol, but hablo español muy poquito. I basically did it. And it's so disrespectful for the folks that are both multilingual and only Spanish speakers. So I would be very happy to have Spanish support to make sure that folks are getting the information that they need. Would someone like to do that, Chief?
Well, Governor, sí podemos. Si prefieren, lo hacemos después para no tardar mucho esta conferencia, pero sí podemos dar unos reportes en español.
Perfecto, gracias.
Gracias, señor.
I think last we've got Dominic from KRQE.
And this is for you, District Attorney Sandbergman. You spoke of the shooting yesterday. Can you confirm really quickly, was that the Montgomery and Tramway location?
Yes.
And with this new crime commission, is this something that we'll see kind of like lead to the stop of scenes like that?
I will say this, without getting into any details on current investigations, because that's not appropriate at this time, obviously. But I will say that the Organized Crime Commission, this is the biggest operation we've done to date. But we are investigating a number of different aspects of human trafficking. Certainly, or the earlier question about stash houses and others, we know there's stash houses in Albuquerque, and we're coming for them. We're gonna do thorough, good investigations. We know, we have an idea of how the cartels are operating, but I'm not gonna get into specifics. But we are going to be relentless and keep, like the governor says, the foot on the gas, because it is really important, because organized crime weaves its way into the fabric of a community, and it's not just stash houses. It's guns out on the street.
That's exactly
It's drugs
right.
out on the
That's what I
street.
was gonna say.
All these things happen
Right.
because of organized crime.
Yeah.
And so every time we make a difference at perhaps one stash house, that has a good ripple effect down the road, that we stop those same criminal enterprises from conducting other types of businesses, perhaps. So our work will never end. I know that. And we're just going to keep doing it. And I think it's going to pay off, and it's going to pay dividends, because you know, these cartels make between $40 and $100 million alone a month just trafficking human beings over the border.
But I really want to hit that point. I agree with District Attorney 1,000%. We are then, you disrupt one part of the criminal activity. You're disrupting fentanyl trafficking and gun trafficking. And far too many firearms, as we have all discussed, find their ways into underage, into our adolescent population, into families and neighborhoods. This work matters, and it does have a ripple effect. Is it everything we need today? Of course it isn't. But more is coming, and again, New Mexicans should expect all of us and this administration to keep our foot on the gas on all of it. These issues and risks must not just be attenuated, they must be eradicated in the state of New Mexico. Thank you, everyone.
Do you have a question, Dan, or go ahead?
Yes, if you can help us out, because I may have missed it, but 91 people rescued by state police, 33 stash houses busted up. Would that be accurate?
I would say the way to phrase that is disrupted or investigated, one way or the other. So 33 different stash houses, a presence was there by state police. Yes.
Sir, you mentioned the one person who was arrested. How many arrests total?
I don't have that number in. That's still a
16?
moving number, believe it or not. What was it?
So on state charges as of right now is 16.
16.
16.
On state charges.
On
Remember,
state charges.
I'm
And
sorry.
that's also will be, it's also on the video that they'll send a link to.
There's also federal charges, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, together with Border Patrol, HSI, and other organizations, will continue to work this human trafficking issue.
That work's ongoing.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
again to these partners. You're amazing.
Thank you, Governor.
You got it.